History of girls' religious education in Sudan and the Sufi role. The earliest of girls' education in Sudan was a Sufi story, primarily on its religious home, and this was begun during Fon Sultanate and it continued through Turkish rule, the Mahdiya era, and both pre- and post-independence periods. Very good morning, dear viewers, and a new episode targeting the Sudanese Sufi woman. And as we have started our discussion and our presentation to the Sudanese Sufi, the field of education, at a time when education was understood to mean only religious method or religious doctrine. There were women who managed the Quranic schools, Khalawi, very successfully. Large numbers of students were attracted to these schools. The educational and economical institutions of those days were known as Khalawis, Quranic schools. They took care of the neighborhood, feeding. They take care of the neighborhood, feeding them, clothing them, and providing them employment. So, as we are going to see later, so numerous and many Sudanese Sufi women, by the way, had played greatest role in the way of spreading education and awareness among their peers, mainly the religious education, and this process has started earlier during Fon Sultanate and went on through Turkish rule up to the moment. So for more information here, I would like referring you to Haja Kashif Badri in her book Women's Movement in the Sudan, Khartoum, Sudan Currency Printing Press, 2009, page 19 and 20. The author of Tabaqat al-Difallah, the renowned Sudanese scholar Muhammad Noor al-Difallah, narrated that the daughter of Sheikh Dafa'allah Abu Idris, one day addressing her father, said, "My father, the people of the son of Abd al-Sadiq had dominated the Fon as well as the Arabs. And you and my brother Muhammad, with the exception of the composer said, we received nothing from you. يابا ناس ولد عبد الصادق ملكوا العرب والفونج، وأولاده شالوا الدليب فوق الفيل من الصعيد للسافل، وانت ومحمد أخوي. بلا قال المصنف ما سمعنا لكم شيء. قال المصنف ما سمعنا لكم شيء." Such words you uttered by the daughter to the father and the son describe the role of the woman and her impact and influence upon others. However, the daughter's word has been taken in the context of inciting, indicate another point that Sufis, if you have taken Sheikh Muhammad al-Hamim Abd al-Sadiq, according to the situation in the society at that time, has dominated the scene, has dominated the community. In other words, it means that Sufis had gained the elevated status, has dominated the situation, and in such a case, the daughter here used her words so as to incite his father to seek a room for having the Sufi Sanad. Thus, Sheikh Abdullah al-Araki was inspired to seek initiation into the Sufi path by the provocative and inciting language the daughter of Abu Idris had used with her father and brother. respectively. It occurred that upon his return, so many powerful Sufi messages were due to his great spiritual character, and in turn became the father of the Ghadir Sanad in Sudan. Such instance pointed out to the role that played by Sufi women at the earliest time of the Sudanese Sufism. Girls' education in Sudan has started in coincidence with boys' education from ancient of its stages as a religious education at the institution of Khalwa. The girls had joined the Khalawi, as well as some women had opened their Khalawi for that purpose. And in this, the Khalwa of Fatima binti Jabir had gained wide fame, in addition to the religious Katatib as the city of Sawakin. Religious education for women has been connected with Sufism movement in the Black or since French Sultanate, as well as the Mahdiya Revolution. During the Mahdiya Revolution, the woman's education process had continued, and she managed to practice the teaching mainly the religious education at the Khalawi. So Fatima binti Jabir had emerged as the notable pioneer in this field, for she was on the same level to her brothers in education and religiosity. However, religious education was spread during the epochs of French. Furthermore, the Islamic kingdoms in Tagali, Musabbaat, Darfur, and Kordofan. In this concern, the women had enjoyed an elevated status to the tribes, which she had taken with the pattern of maternity and maternal uncle in some tribes such as Bija, Ababda, Bishari, Nuba, and parts of Darfur and Kordofan tribes. However, the system has prepared the deep roots for the woman elevated status. During the British colonial epoch, education had been linked with church missionaries. This had distanced the society away from accepting the girls' regular education, and consequently, this has led the society to initiate the establishment of private education. So Rufa School was the first school for girls' education, which had been connected with the efforts of Sheikh Babakir Badri in 1907. Then afterwards, the process of regular education for girls has been kept on in big cities, Umdurman, Madini, and Ubaid, etc. For more information, see سهير أحمد صلاح عن رجاء حسن خليفة النهوض بتعليم المرأة published paper on academia.edu. Contributions in the field of women religious education during the Turkish as well as the Mahdiya era. Important and significant figures such as Al-Haj Atwa, Al-Faqih Muhammad Al-Mubarak, the grandfather of Abu al-Qasim Hashim, to his mother, Al-Faqih Al-Lamin Al-Darir, and Imam Al-Mahdi, they all had learned their duties and instructed the education of the other than theirs, mainly Sayyid Muhammad Osman Al-Mirqani, who instructed the opening of Katatib for educating the Quran to the girls. Of the important figures in girls' education during the Turkish rule, here we may come to give an example to Ammuna bint Abbud. And Ammuna bint Abbud established two offices for boys and girls. Here she opened at that time two schools, two Quranic schools, one for girls and the other for boys. She also took an interest in teaching the girls how to cook and run their homes. In addition, Sheikha Maryam bint Haj Atwa at Damar, another figure in that field, Sheikha Khadija bint Al-Faqih Ali and her mother Fatima Al-Nasr Abu in Umdurman were among the women who were involved in religious education during the Mahdiya, in addition to Kalthuf, Sheikh Al-Qurashi with the Zain. In addition to the contribution of Sheikha bint Ata, also Sheikh Khadija Al-Ashari and Sheikha Khadija Abdul Rahim, religious education. This is the girls' education during the period from 1680 to 19. For more information here, see the article Samir Muhammad Ali, Amani Rinas, an article published in Sudanese press. In 1947, as a part of the festival of Omdurman Teacher College, the Silver Jubilee, Sheikh Babakir Badri addressed the gathering and said, I have heard that some people believe that I was the first to care about the education of Sudanese girls. This has inspired me to conduct accurate research on this mysterious hidden fact and to use the knowledge I have gained from talking to those who are knowledgeable about it, as well as what I have learned from reading a few historical books. Out of all that, I have come to the conclusion, and I said, first and foremost, girls' education focused toward memorization of the Holy Quran and other sacred texts. Second, Fatima bint Jabir was the first girl to receive an education under her father. She memorized the Quran and studied religious sciences under her four brothers, who are credited with bringing the book of Mukhtasar Khalil to Sudan before 340 years. Fatima is the mother of Sheikh Suhayrun, who completed the memorization of Mukhtasar Khalil 50 times in 50 years, as well as by his students, among whom were Sheikh Khojali. The Mukhtasar of Khalil has spread in Sinai Island. Thirdly, it had been a long time since I had heard of advancements in girls' education. In fact, I hadn't heard of them until the earliest years of the 13th century Hijri. This is because Al-Qadi Arabi's wife, Al-Faqira Amna Al-Hawariya, started it by educating his daughters in addition to nearly perfectly an 11 of these women had memorized the Quran at that time. However, his 9-year-old granddaughters, among them was Al-Faqira Maymuna bint Abdel Qadir, educated the daughters of Al-Mahdi as well as her sister Ruqayya, continuing the education. Sheikh Al-Badawi, Sheikh Badawi Abu Safiya, had followed the Qadi Arabi lead because the two of them lived in Kordofan close to Al-Ubayd. Amina bint Wahb, the mother of Sheikh Abu Al-Qasim Hashim, was also among those who memorized the Quran and other religious texts. She studied under her father Al-Faqih Muhammad Wad Al-Mubarak in the village of Puri Al-Mahas. Maryam bint Sheikh Atwa, the mother of Sheikh Mayzoub Jalal al-Din, a teacher at the Omdurman Institute today, was another pious woman. When Maryam used to teach her husband the Quran at night, he remarked that it was outside of her knowledgeable approach to the Quran and that he was afraid of making mistakes. And she, Maryam, had studied the religious sciences book of Creed, Aqidah, Ibadat, devotions, and the book of Risalat Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qirawani. Out of these books, Amna, among the many notable Sudanese Sufi women from that time, at that far time, she and her counterparts, as I have stated, had played the greatest role in lifting and raising the awareness, mainly the religious awareness among the female sector through their care of me of teaching the Quran and other Islamic sciences. The sources are filled with citation of women who have excelled in knowledge and righteousness and have taken the initiative in this regard. And here we have once again to state that notable Sudanese woman Fatima bint Jabir, who used to teach the Quran at the mosque of her brothers, the sons of Jabir. It was reported that she had 24 faqir who studied the Quran under her supervision. Furthermore, Sheikh Khojali ibn Abdurrahman, the renowned wali, was among those who studied under al-faqir Ashib al-Gaddal in the Khalawi or in the Khalwa neighborhood, south of Khartoum near Jabal Ulia. Furthermore, Sheikh Hamad al-Maryum was a well-known figure, had also known for his care for the education of women, and many students received degrees under his leadership. In the east part of the Sudan, mainly in the bigger areas, teaching on the Halawi had relied on women, while in the west part of the country it was believed that the wife of Khalwa Sheikh at that time was in the task of carrying out the teaching of women and their respected husbands, Khalawis. In this concern, it was reported that they were faqih educated or they were fiqh educated women that had established their Khalawis, and the majority among them were from the four Bargu and Masali tribes. Women had always enjoyed high status among tribes, adopting maternity systems such as Bija, Ababda, Bisharin, Nubia, and Ortem tribes in Kordofan and Darfur. This system has paved the way for women to play various roles in the political life of their communities. Women in Darfur may participate in all roles with the exception of major wars. They participate together with men in religious occasions. Sultan Hussein has a sister called Aya Pase, who gained important authority in the rule. The royal woman or first lady, the castle, had a say in public affairs, and the Sultan listened to her as a favorable wife. Sisters, mothers, and grandmothers of the Sultan, known as Maryam, also took decision in public life. There was no great attention given to women education. Women only knew how to read and write. In some of Darfur areas, old women memorized the Quran in addition to the skill of reading and writing. This level of education women had to achieve before they received a marriage proposal. According to Yahya Ibrahim, the famous Sudanese historian, the sister of Sultan Hussein paid great attention to building mosque in the southern part of Al-Fashir. The four people in the west of Sudan, amongst others, have been renowned for centuries for their committed Quran learning, chanting, and teaching. Some four families send their children to Quranic schools for many years. Schools where, in many cases, they will spend much to their childhood, later returning to their families having committed all or at least part of the Quran to memory. Some of the four people consider the learning and teaching of the Quran as a way of life, and they may dedicate or dictate their whole lives to seeking Quranic learning. Therefore, deeply rooted. Therefore, the Quranic memorization is deeply rooted in the culture of the four society and forms a significant element of their socio-religious life. People there demonstrate their memorization of the Quran not only during religious activities but also on social occasions. For more information in this particular area, see Bakhit Muhammad Noor, The Religious Men in Jabal Marra, Germany 2014, page 27. Ustaz al-Tayyib Muhammad al-Tayyib and from the Tabaqat of the Fallah had counted so numerous examples of a strong, solid mother that had managed to invest in the breath of the freedom that was allowed in their fathers' houses. Some of them had imposed and proved their concrete presence to the extent that had shaken the masculinity culture which was prevailing at that time. So when a man like Sheikh Ali Abu Tlaik asked to whom did he choose a person to his Khalifa or to choose a person as his Khalifa while he was on his deathbed, and despite the availability of the males who were eligible for the Khalifa, uttered, "My daughter Aisha." The selection did not come out of no reason, for the strong personality of Aisha had imposed itself upon the institution, and her name continued to be dominated upon her husband's name even after the passing away of the Sheikh. The society there had been forced to get out of this predicament or dilemma by naming her husband's name to the Quran fire, and had been considered an endowment upon Sheikh Aisha bint Ali Abu Tlaik. Women sacrifice for son education. There have been instances where we have indirectly demonstrated the role the Sudanese woman played in the spread of ilm or science. For instance, a mother who was preparing her son to take over as his father's deputy sold all of her possessions, including her jewelry, to one of the shuyukh. Wadifallah stated that in his book, Tabaqat stated that the woman's son had achieved a high status in religious and righteousness after finishing his studies with the Sheikh, had adopted his Sheikh's scientific career, and had, above all, surpassed his contemporaries by becoming a judge who made decisions based on what was generally agreed upon and the truest rules. Among these instances, there was the woman whose son had proposed marriage to her from their teacher after he had left the life in Berber to study under him in Shandi. The mother accepted the offer solely for the sake of educating her son. More information in this area in Yahya Muhammad Ibrahim, تاريخ التعليم الديني في السودان, The History of Religious Education in Sudan, Darjil, Beirut, 1987, page 213. The Sudanese woman interest go beyond just studying and instructing. We discover that she practiced tasawwuf and told herself that karamat had part of that culture. For instance, when Fatima bint Jabir learned that the Shaykhia ruler intended to kill her son, she supplicated against him. She supplicated Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against him, and as a result he fell off his horse. Furthermore, it was said that the highest accomplishment and sublime rank of the son of Jabir was an accepted supplication from their mother, as affirmed by Wadifallah in Tabaqat. Additionally, it was said that Sheikh Khojali's widespread reputation had been made possible by his mother accepted supplication. تاريخ التعليم الديني The History of Religious Education in Sudan يحيى محمد إبراهيم 1987. Back into the history of religious education that had been led by the Sudanese Sufi woman, here we would like to refer to what has been stated by Rafi al-Tathawi, who has documented the story and the effort that had been led by Sheikh Ammouna bin Aboud. Let us come to listen to him. Al-Tathawi provided details on the educational role of Amina or Ammouna bin Aboud, sister of Meher bin Aboud. Woman Ammouna lived in Wadi Bushara, southwest of Shendi. She established 2 schools. This is just the words of Rafi al-Tathawi, who saw the scene by himself. She established 2 schools for teaching Quran, one for boys and the others for girls. She refused to take any money from her husband for fear that his money was not pure enough for her schools. In fact, her husband, Muhammad Agal Izerik, was a military officer in the Turkish army. In rural areas, the Sufi orders maintain the religious education and spiritual promotion of the society. Educated women played a role in such activities throughout the Turkish era. In Kordofan, there was Badawi with the Safiya, who died in 1841. He established a number of Quranic schools or khalawi for women, where his 7 sisters or his 7 daughters learned Quran and taught it. His daughter Zainab was an excellent teacher in this regard. In east part of the country, women played a positive role in religious education. Many of these women were members of Al-Marqani Sufi sect. Sharifa Maryam Al-Marqani, a daughter of Sayyid Hashim Al-Marqani, ran many Quranic schools in different parts of the eastern region. According to Al-Tayyib, Muhammad Al-Tayyib, both boys and girls attended Quranic lessons taught by female teachers. The local residents respected the teachers a lot and gave them high status titles such as Sheikha and Sayyida. In Jalin area, there was a famous woman called Sheikha Fatima bint Asad. She was good in memorization of the Quran and Islamic teachings to the extent that scholars traveled to meet her. The village where she lived, now called Mutammar Fatima bint Asad. Thus, in the 19th century, Sudanese women engaged in education beyond the Turkish umbrella cities. Religious education was available for women. The general trend then was the enrollment of women in Sufi orders and activities. For more information here, I referring you to Ashaf Abdul Qadir Hassan, Girls Education in Sudan's Past, Present and Future. At the end of this episode, I would like to draw your attention that I will devote a separate episode to each of the stated or mentioned figures from the Sudanese Sufi woman that had been already stated in this episode. So a separate episode will be devoted to each one of them, having her history life, her contribution to her own society during different stages of the Sudanese girls' education, and at the same time throughout the different stages of the Sudanese history and Sufism in the country.